Here is the weird little Honda secret nobody on a dealer lot wants to admit. The Crosstour is both unkillable and unwanted, and that is exactly why it gets cheap. These can push 250,000 to 300,000 miles with boring maintenance, but the wrong year and engine can still become a money pit. Stick with me, because in a minute, I am giving you the exact years to buy, the years to be careful with, and the one check that matters before cash changes hands. Honda Crosstour. The car is the Honda Crosstour, and it ran in the United States from 2010 through 2015. The early cars were called the Accord Crosstour in 2010 and 2011. Then Honda cleaned up the name and just called it Crosstour from 2012 through 2015. That matters because the later facelifted cars look cleaner, feel more sorted, and usually make more sense as actual buys. Early on, this thing leaned hard on the V6 story, but later cars gave you the smarter value play, the 2.4-liter four-cylinder with a 5-speed automatic. The V6 stayed in the lineup too, now with a 6-speed automatic, and it is strong, smooth, and easy on the highway. But the reason this car gets ignored has nothing to do with what it does well. People hate the shape. They cannot decide if it is a sedan, a wagon, or a crossover. The rear glass is thick, the profile looks strange, and it has zero cool factor. That is the whole opportunity. People who stare at the shape miss the ownership story. People who actually drive and live with one tend to get it. That is important, because shoppers who think it is just a weird Accord often miss that Honda was trying to build a softer, taller, more useful highway car for grown-up buyers. Why it is unkillable. Let's talk about why this thing keeps going, because this is where most people get lazy and just say, Honda reliability like that explains anything. It does not. The first hard reason is the later 2.4-liter setup. That engine is naturally aspirated, not turbocharged, and it is backed by a conventional 5-speed automatic. That means fewer stress points, fewer heat issues, and none of the nonsense you see when a cheap used car starts depending on complicated systems to feel modern. For a buyer shopping in the $5,000 world, simple is not boring. Simple is smart. The second hard reason is parts and labor logic. This is not some weird imported luxury orphan that sends you into a parts catalog nightmare. Underneath the odd body, you are still dealing with Honda's mainstream mechanical thinking. Independent shops know these engines. Honda specialists know these engines. Even basic wear items do not feel exotic. That matters a lot when a car turns from theory into an actual daily driver that needs brakes, fluids, mounts, tires, and the usual old car upkeep. The third reason is the body itself. This shape got mocked for years, but that big hatch, the higher seating position, and the broad cabin actually help the long-term ownership case. It is easier to load, easier to get into than a low sedan, and easier to justify as a daily for somebody who wants comfort without stepping into crossover price inflation. The ride is calm, the seats are decent, and the whole thing feels more substantial than many compact SUVs people keep overpaying for. Now, I will be fair. The 3.5-liter V6 is a good engine, and when it is healthy, it feels smooth and relaxed. But the 2.4 is the low-drama pick. That is the one I would defend with my own money if the goal is the safest value, the easiest maintenance story, and the least amount of drama after the handshake. It also helps that the cabin materials usually wear better than those of many cheap crossovers from the same era. Even after years of use, a cared-for Crosstour can still feel tight, quiet, and settled instead of tired and flimsy. If you want the ugly duckling bargains that actually survive, subscribe now. We are building this channel for buyers who want truth, not the same lazy Honda list every other video repeats. Why nobody wants it. Now let's get honest about why dealer lots and private sellers struggle with this thing. The Crosstour got killed by its own shape. Not because it is useless, because it confuses people. It looks heavier and stranger than a normal Accord, and it never gave buyers a clean identity they could brag about. Sedan people thought it was too wagonish. Crossover people thought it was too low and too weird. Wagon people never got enough of them to make a tribe. So the car fell into this dead zone where almost nobody wanted to be seen choosing it, even though it quietly solved a lot of real-life problems better than the cars shoppers claimed to prefer. That is how you get pricing inefficiency. It is not that the market found a fatal mechanical flaw and abandoned it. The market looked at the body, shrugged, and moved on. That is your opening. Bad styling is often the best discount maker in the used market. It pushes down demand faster than a weak color, a bland interior, or an old man image ever could. Buyers who actually own them keep saying the same thing. Once you use it, the shape starts making sense. It just takes longer for the brain to catch up than it does for the hatch area to prove its point, and that disconnect between looks and usefulness is exactly what keeps the price soft. Buyers want a label for everything, and the Crosstour refused to fit one clean label: prices. Now let's talk real money, because the headline only works if we stay honest. At the rough end of the market, high mile but clean, 2010 to 2011 V6 cars can still show up around $5,800 to $7,000. That is how this title exists. You can get into the platform at about $5,000 if your standards are realistic and the miles are high, but the smarter versions usually cost more, and you need to know that going in. Across the broader national market, Crosstours run from the low $3,000 junk edge up into the mid-teens, with an average in the low $8,000 range. The better buys, especially cleaner 2012 to 2015 EX or EXL trims, often live around $10,000 to $14,500 or even more if miles are low and records are clean. So here is the truth. The headline gets you into the platform. The smartest version usually costs more than the roughest one. That is not a contradiction. That is how used cars work when the best years are still worth chasing. That is why the cheap headline is only half true. The platform can be a $5,000 Honda, but the best Honda in the platform usually costs more because smarter buyers already know what they are looking at. Best years versus years to avoid. Here is the part that actually saves you money. Buy the 2012 to 2015 2.4-liter Crosstour with the 5-speed automatic. That is the sweet spot. You get the cleaner facelifted body, the simpler drivetrain, the safer value balance, and a stronger reputation for calm ownership. Conditional buy is the 2012 to 2015 3.5 V6, but only if you get a clean transmission service history and do a careful road test. The V6 is smooth and strong, but it asks more from the buyer. The years I would avoid or treat very carefully are the 2010 to 2011 V6 cars. Those years have the worst engine complaint pattern, especially repeated oil consumption complaints. And if you are shopping for any 2013 to 2015 V6 automatic, pay serious attention to torque converter judder. Honda service bulletins cover those years for a lock-up clutch judder between 20 and 60 miles per hour. That means the transmission conversation is not theoretical. If the seller says it has a little shiver at light throttle, do not romanticize it. Price it correctly or walk. Buy the right engine and the right transmission, not just the cheapest Honda badge with a clean photo and a seller who sounds confident. Buyer checklist. Start with the engine. Check the oil level before the test drive, not after. Ask directly about oil use and watch how the seller answers. Look for cold start smoke. Pull the plugs if the seller allows it, or at least ask about misfire history and plug changes, because fouled plugs can tell a bigger oil story. Smell for coolant. Look for overheating clues, low coolant, crust around hoses, cooked plastic, or a reservoir that tells on the car. Then move to the transmission. On V6 cars, drive it between 20 and 60 miles per hour with light throttle and feel for torque converter judder. It can feel like a rumble strip under the floor or a faint shiver through the seat. For all automatics, check delayed engagement, weird flare, harsh downshifts, or anything that feels lazy when shifting from park into drive. Ask when the fluid was changed, and if the seller says sealed transmission, that is not confidence. That is a red flag. Suspension and brakes come next. Listen for front-end clunks over rough pavement, feel for brake pulsation at speed, and check for uneven tire wear because alignment and worn parts leave clues fast. Listen for wheel bearing noise too, especially on rough roads or steady highway runs. Then inspect the body. Check rear hatch alignment, because a hatch that does not sit right can hint at old damage or water intrusion. Open the cargo area and smell for moisture. In salt belt states, get under the rear and look for rust underneath, around suspension points, and along the usual edges where old cars start dissolving. Also check every window, every lock, the backup camera if equipped, and the air conditioning under real heat, because small comfort fixes still add up on an old daily. Then finish with service history. Oil change receipts matter. Transmission fluid records matter. Recall completion matters. On V6 cars, proof of torque converter work matters a lot. If a seller has none of that and still wants top money, they are asking you to buy hope. Hope is expensive. Subscribe for the exact good years, bad years, and inspection traps that separate a smart $5,000 Honda from a cheap mistake you regret for months. Who should buy it and who should not? Who should buy this thing? Commuters, retirees, people who want an easier entry height than a sedan without paying full crossover money. Buyers who like Honda familiarity but do not want to overpay for a CR-V. Cheap daily driver shoppers who can live with odd styling if the car does the job. Who should not buy it? Anybody who wants real speed. Anybody who cares about rear visibility above everything. Anybody who wants giant modern screens, flashy tech, or a shape that gets compliments at gas stations. And if you just want a CR-V look and do not care about paying extra for it, this car is probably not for you. The Crosstour works best for people who buy with logic, not vanity. That is the boring, practical logic most shoppers skip while chasing shape, status, and whatever merely looks newer. Click the next video now because I am breaking down the used cars to avoid and the cheap cars mechanics actually trust, so you see both sides before you buy.